3 years after an unexplained global event resulting in the disappearance of 2% of the world's population, the residents of a small town deal with the feelings of loss and guilt of moving on. On October 14, 2011, Natalie is stressed as she takes her baby to the laundromat. Later, Natalie places the baby in the back seat and gets into the driver's seat. She tries to calm the baby's crying while speaking to her husband on the phone. After the phone call, she realizes the baby is gone. So she gets out of the car to look for him, but all she sees is a child crying out for his father and she panics. On October 13, 2014, 3 years after the departure, the event where 2% of the world's population vanished, Kevin Garvey, Mapleton police chief, sees a dog on the street while jogging. He calls the dog over, but suddenly the dog is shot by Dean. Kevin is shocked by what he witnessed and then tries to chase the truck, but Dean drives away. Kevin walks back to the lifeless dog and checks its collar. At the Guilty Remnant house, a cult-like organization, Lori wakes up around other women wearing white clothes. In school, Jill, Kevin's daughter, has a flirty exchange with Nick when they mock their other classmates participating in a prayer for the departed. Tom, Kevin's son, waits for Congressman Whitten, who he's entrusted to drive to Holy Wayne's compound. Tom asks for the payment and the politician's phone, then asks Whitten to blindfold himself. At the Garvey house, Kevin watches the Senate hearing of the Denziger Commission. The commission tasked to figure out why the departure happened. After 3 years of research, the commission's conclusion is that they don't know. At the Guilty Remnant house, Lori and other members check a list of those chosen to attend Heroes Day, a parade happening the next day as a remembrance of the departed. Lori heads to Patty's office and writes her grievances down because all Guilty Remnant members vow silence. Eventually, Patty allows her to go to Heroes Day, and Lori smiles. Elsewhere, Kevin visits the dog's owner, Mrs. Tunney, and hands her the collar. She asks if he's the police chief Garvey that went crazy, and he says that's his father. She doesn't care about the dog and explains it ran away 3 years ago when her husband departed. Then he walks back to his car and tosses the collar in the trunk next to the dog's carcass. He calls his deputy Dennis, who tells him he's late for the meeting with the mayor. Meanwhile, the congressman asks Tom why he isn't in college. The young man remembers seeing a couple jump off a building together and answers that he didn't think college was worth it. Whitten asks if Wayne is legitimate, and he says the congressman will forget feeling burdened once he meets him. At the meeting, Kevin listens to the mayor, Lucy, discuss the Heroes Day parade. Nora Durst, a local woman who lost her entire family in the departure, is expected to speak to the crowd. Kevin insists on canceling the event because the Guilty Remnant will take it as an opportunity to provoke the townspeople. Lucy refuses to cancel because she believes it's time to move on, so Kevin leaves the meeting. At field hockey practice, Jill gets in trouble when she injures a teammate and her coach gives her a warning if she wants to remain on the team. At Wayne's compound, a woman leads Congressman Whitten to Wayne, and the politician asks if he can help him. Outside, Tom hands Christine, one of Wayne's girlfriends, a bag of gummy worms. Around them are other young women wearing bikinis by the pool. Suddenly, Tom's phone rings with a call from his father, but he doesn't answer it. Shortly after, Kevin leaves Tom a message when he doesn't answer the call. In the Garvey house, Kevin smashes a framed picture of his family, breaking the glass, cracking it right over his wife's face. In the Guilty Remnant house, the members pass around folders containing files on townspeople. Lori gets a folder with Meg's files, and Gladys writes that she thinks Meg is pretty. Outside school, Amy thinks she and Jill should go to a party at Jade Dorfman's house that evening, and adds that Nick will be there. Minutes later, twins Adam and Scott invite the girls to play ping pong, but Amy declines. Elsewhere, Whitten's meeting with Wayne ends, and he says he's been unburdened. The woman says Doug will take the congressman home because Wayne wishes to speak with Tom. Tom is worried about why Wayne would want to talk to him. At dinner, Jill doesn't tell her father about field hockey practice, and Amy asks if they can go to a small get-together at the Dorfman house. Kevin allows them to go as long as they don't drink. Outside Meg's house, she and her fiancé Pete see Lori and Gladys staring at them as they get in their car. At the party, illegal underage debauchery is happening. Jill and Amy play a game where a person spins the phone and has to do a dare with who it lands. When Nick spins the phone, it lands on Amy, and he has to sleep with her. Amy tells her best friend she won't do it if Jill refuses, so Jill says it's okay even if she feels differently. Then, Nick carries Amy to the bedroom as Jill hides her dismay. In the restaurant, Pete wants to discuss wedding plans, and Meg looks disinterested. She sees that Lori and Gladys have followed them, so Pete talks to the women patiently and they finally leave. At the party, Jill spins the phone, and it lands on Max, who she has to choke. They head to a bedroom where they unclothe down their underwear and lay on the bed. He asks why Amy would willingly sleep with Nick despite knowing Jill has a crush on Nick, but she continues pretending she doesn't care. Max then pleasures himself as she chokes him, and tears roll down her cheek. Meanwhile, Meg and Pete see Laurie and Gladys waiting outside their house. Meg gets out of the car, screams at the women, and punches Laurie before Pete takes her to the house. At the party, Jill sees Nick and Amy making love, so she decides to ditch the party. Outside, Adam and Scott ask Jill if she has a flashlight, and she says her dad might have some flares. When Jill opens the trunk, they see the dog carcass and jump back in fright. Minutes later, the three head to a remote location to bury the dog. Adam mentions an urban legend of once domesticated dogs running in packs around town. The dogs have returned to their primal instincts after the departure. At the compound, Wayne tells Tom to keep his hands off Christine. He then tells the scared young man about a recurring dream, where his son claims that the people who stayed during the departure still pretend it never happened, but need to wake up precisely 3 years later. Meanwhile, Kevin has a dream where he hits a deer with his car and wakes up when he rolls off the bed. He gets a call from Dennis, who tells him the parade is in 10 minutes. Minutes later, Kevin checks Jill's room and realizes she didn't come home last night. Downstairs, he sees the kitchen trashed by an intruder who broke the door open. At the parade, Lucy tells Kevin to maintain the peace. He thinks the event will go smoothly, and he says to wait until the end of the day if she still feels the same way. At the Guilty Remnant house, the members pile into several vehicles before heading to the parade. At the statue to be unveiled at the end of the parade, Matt, a pastor, spreads the word that the departure wasn't the rapture because some who departed weren't good people. Later, Kevin finds Jill and asks where she was last night. She asks him why a dog carcass was in the trunk, but he doesn't have a good answer for her. Soon the program starts, and Lucy unveils the statue of a woman catching a baby with her arms as tribute to the departed. Moments later, Lucy introduces Nora, Matt's sister, who says she would give anything to have even a miserable moment with her family because at least they'd still be together. Suddenly, the Guilty Remnant arrives carrying signs that read, "Stop wasting your breath." The parade attendees get riled up and want the organization to leave. They approach the silent protesters and push them away until a fight breaks out. Kevin and the other police officers try to stop the brawl, then Kevin finds Laurie and helps her up. That evening at a bar, Natalie asks Kevin where he was when the departure happened. He says he was at home, but he was actually in a motel making love with a woman. Natalie says she was in the laundromat parking lot but doesn't elaborate further. Later, Kevin sees Dean pass him in the bar and follows him out the door, where he drunkenly shouts that he can't slay their dogs. He chases Dean when the man drives away, but drops his gun. He then sees two male Guilty Remnant members looking at him while smoking. Later that night, Kevin drives to the Guilty Remnant's property and asks to speak to his wife. He screams Laurie's name and punches a man who stops him from entering the house. Moments later, Laurie appears by the door, followed by Patty, who writes that he's not welcome. Kevin begs Laurie to come home, but she looks at him sadly and doesn't say anything. Then, Guilty Remnant members forcefully drag Kevin back to his car, and he drives away. After Kevin leaves, a taxi pulls up, and Meg gets out and asks Patty if she can stay for a few nights. Patty says she can, and Laurie will take care of her. Before Meg enters the house, Patty tells her that they won't be talking to each other again. At home, Jill finds the broken picture frame and removes the broken glass as she cries on the stairs. At the compound, Tom unclothes himself by the pool, revealing scars from lashing on his back. He dives in the water and screams out his frustrations. Meanwhile, Kevin sees a deer on the road and approaches it. He wonders if it was the one who broke into his kitchen last night. Suddenly, a pack of dogs appears and takes down the deer. Dean arrives, says the dogs aren't theirs anymore, and asks Kevin if he has a gun. Dean shoots the dogs, and Kevin joins him shortly after. Weeks later, officials from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, Explosives, and Cults, or ATFEC, have a brief regarding Wayne's many offenses. This includes starting a cult in Nevada where he sleeps with Asian girls to power his magical healing powers. Wayne claims to take people's pain away by hugging them. His followers are primarily college-age young adults who work on the property. The officials then approve a raid to capture the healer. Hours later, the ATFEC Special Forces enter Wayne's compound, searching for him and arresting the women he's kept there. They ask them where Wayne is, but they don't know. Moments later, one operative sees Christine outside the house and threatens her at gunpoint, but Tom saves her by shooting the soldier. He then takes Christine to a hatch in the ground and they escape while the assault on the property continues. Meanwhile, Kevin dreams of Amy waking him in bed and taking him to the woods, where she shows Dean shooting a woman with a sniper. Dean tells him to watch his feet, and when he looks down, his legs are in flames. He wakes from the dream and sees a large fire in his neighbor's yard that has reached their shared fence. Kevin runs out the door and puts the fire out. His neighbor was burning his departed brother's things because he didn't want to donate them and possibly see a stranger wearing them on the street. At the police counselor's office, Kevin insists that Dean exists and they were shooting a pack of dogs that attacked a deer. The counselor says no one else has seen the man Kevin keeps mentioning. In the Guilty Remnant house, Ron makes Meg pancakes before Lori enters carrying an axe. Lori takes Meg to a tree in the woods and implies she wants her to cut it down. Meg grabs the axe and swings at the tree but is inexperienced with the chore. In town, Matt hands Jill and Amy one of his flyers before they enter a cafe. Inside, Jill trips over Nora's purse and she sees a pistol inside. When Amy joins her at the table, she tells her friend about the firearm and they speculate why Nora has it. Minutes later, they watch Nora slide her mug over the table's edge, causing it to break on the floor. The irritated barista comes over but changes his tone when he sees that it's Nora. He apologizes, Nora leaves the cafe and the two girls follow her. They see Nora give Matt a hug outside the cafe and get in her SUV. The girls see Adam and Scott, and Amy insists on driving their car to tail the woman. In the woods, Meg has made minimal progress and expresses her pent-up dissatisfaction with the many weeks she's been with the Guilty Remnant. She calls the group a cult, and Lori disagrees, but Meg refuses to cut down the tree and heads to the house. In Nevada, Tom stops the car at a gas station and tells Christine to stay inside. He heads to the store where he sees a lifeless man before heading back out. Christine worries and says Wayne should be here by now when suddenly a car arrives, and the woman from the compound gets out and opens the trunk. Wayne exits the compartment and Christine happily jumps into his arms. The healer gives Tom a knowing and thankful look. Meanwhile, Kevin and Dennis are at the Guilty Remnant property with a search warrant, and Patty lets them in. They speak to the potential members, Ron and Meg, to confirm if they're there on their own free will. He hands Meg his card and says to call anytime. Later, Patty thinks Meg will leave because Lori's too easy on her. Lori believes Meg is not strong enough, so Patty suggests cutting her loose. Meanwhile, Nora pulls into the driveway outside the Pattersons' house, and the high school kids park on the road. At the door, Louise lets Nora inside for their departure benefit interview. At the police station, Lucy tells Kevin to tell the police counselor that what happened with the dogs won't happen again and to leave the Guilty Remnant alone. He senses that she also doesn't believe his story about Dean, but promises he'll stay away from the Guilty Remnant. At the Patterson house, Nora sets up a camera to record the benefit release questionnaire, where she asks Luis and his wife Marie questions before she can sign them off. Outside, Amy sneaks into Nora's SUV after Jill dares her. Once inside, Jill honks the horn in the car and laughs as Amy panics and runs back. Jill sees Nora looking at them from the front door as they drive away. In his office, Kevin informs Pete of Meg's whereabouts, and he thinks she can still be convinced to come home. However, Pete disagrees and says she needs the Guilty Remnant and not him. Seconds later, Dennis calls Kevin and says the mysterious truck in his driveway. At the driveway, Kevin sees Dean's truck with a dog carcass in a garbage bag and wonders why someone would put the truck there. In Nevada, Wayne offers to hug Tom's pain away, but he declines. The healer then says Christine will not be going with him. At the Guilty Remnant house, Lori is there to take more of Meg's belongings. Still, Meg asks if she could have one night where she doesn't get anything taken away from her and asks Lori if she remembers caring for anything else. Then, Meg cries and says that she doesn't want to feel this way anymore. Meanwhile, Wayne breaks Tom's phone, hands him a flip phone, and tells him to wait for his call. He thinks Christine will be safer away from him, and the couple says their goodbyes. In the car, Tom breaks down when it doesn't start, and Christine assures him that it'll be okay because Wayne said so. In the house, Kevin sees Dean holding some booze at the front door. He says he left the truck in his driveway because he heard he was looking for it. Seconds later, the girls arrive, and Jill takes the booze from Dean, which means they can see him too. Dean says he found another pack of dogs by the elementary school and asks Kevin to join him tomorrow. Later, Kevin visits his dad, Kevin Sr., at the psychiatric hospital, where he finishes his visit with Lucy. Kevin asks his dad when he started having strange dreams, and his dad insists he's not crazy. Suddenly, his father talks to people around him that Kevin can't see and says they sent someone to help Kevin out but doesn't know any other details. At the Guilty Remnant house, Patty wakes Lori to tell her that Meg is gone. In the woods, Meg returns to the tree and continues chopping it with a range of emotions across her face.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.